Hello everybody, it's Dylan from Yu-Gi-Oh! Everything, and welcome back to another Yu-Gi-Oh! VRains review. This time, we will be reviewing Episode 6 of Yu-Gi-Oh! VRains. Generally speaking, and I cannot wait to talk to you guys especially about this episode down below, generally speaking, I thought it was a magnificent episode. I've watched it now 2 or 3 times subbed, and I actually think it was maybe the greatest. That's probably a little bit of an overstatement, but it was one of the best introductory episodes of a character that we have seen in Yu-Gi-Oh! I really do believe that. I think they introduced Aoi Zaizen magnificently. The episode started with her kicking ass and beating someone in a speed duel, and the episode ended with her about to duel Playmaker Yusaku. Whereas the Go Onizuka episode, that was all plot. This episode was all plot, and that was another plot episode with Yu-Gi-Oh! VRains, and I've loved that about Yu-Gi-Oh! VRains so far, that they keep kind of splitting up the duels with full episodes dedicated to the plot, which is kind of uncharted territory for Yu-Gi-Oh! And it's just very awesome to see, because again, it's just more signs that the writers this time around, at least in the early going and hopefully for the future, do care about the plot. Now, will the duels hold up? Because I know that's the big complaint that a lot of people have right now, that the duels have been maybe not great. Personally, I think the duels have been just fine. We have another speed duel coming up with Aoi and Yusaku. I would have liked to see a master duel. I would have liked to see a regular duel. Maybe we'll get that between Yusaku and Revolver, but probably not, because they're all riding their D-boards. Like, when are we going to get just a regular standing duel? We know they are going to happen in VRains. We're not really sure, though, when we'll get our first one, but I'm getting a little off topic. Back to the positives. They're focusing on the plot. 3 of the first 6 episodes, all plot, no duels, which is awesome. It's awesome to see, and during the Go introductory episode, got a little off topic, that was really the second half of the episode. They kind of introduced us to Go. This episode was fully 20 minutes, pretty much entirely about Aoi, entirely about Blue Angel, and I thought they demonstrated her character complexity extremely well. A character that in the real world has no friends, and everyone uses her for her brother, and her brother, the only person that she's even motivated to do anything for, Akira, she knows doesn't even trust her, and she says that to Yusaku at some point in this episode. The only friend she has is her brother, who she knows doesn't even trust her. I mean, think about that. And when she goes into the VR world, the second she goes in, she has all these challenges from duelists wanting to duel her. She has all these fans that are obsessed with her. But yet in real life, she is the loneliest person that we have maybe ever seen in a Yu-Gi-Oh! Show. And the complexity there, absolutely incredible. But the episode begins with her doing well, her beating someone in a speed duel. And I guess they've overlooked the speed duels being illegal now, because remember in episode 3, you had 2 clowns that were speed dueling, and they were arrested for it. Maybe Akira didn't arrest these people because he knows his sister's Blue Angel. He even calls his sister out for it later in this episode. But Yusaku and Kusanagi are analyzing the data, and they're like, wow, Aoi Zaizen, she's 16 years old, and she's Blue Angel. And another thing that I think has been overlooked is the dialogue. This is the first episode. Ignis has always kind of annoyed me a little bit, but this was the first episode where I actually really enjoyed his role in this episode, and Kusanagi's role. And the dialogue in this episode, and the dialogue in this series, has been so, like, low-key, no-chill hilarious. I've absolutely loved the dialogue, and I thought the dialogue in this episode was amazing. Kusanagi is, like, making fun of Yusaku for not being able to talk to girls, and Yusaku's not even denying it. He's just sitting there taking it, and the AI, Ignis, is just like, yeah, it'd be impossible for Yusaku to ever talk to a girl. And, of course, that leads up to Yusaku trying to talk to Aoi, trying to talk to Blue Angel in disguise, or in her real form. And his main motives to do this are to get to Akira, and that'll be important for later on in this episode, and I really like how they kind of did that whole issue, but I'll get to that later on in this review. Yusaku stalks Aoi. Basically, he stalks her to this duel club area where, you have all these aspiring duelists, and he's about to go in, he's not really about to go in, he's just looking, and Naoki, big mouth Naoki comes in. I love Naoki, and he immediately starts ripping on Yusaku, and he's like, I guess you gotta be here to join the duel club, and the leader of the duel club opens the door, and he's like, alright, yeah, you guys can come in, Naoki, stop being a dick. And so they walk in, and everyone introduces themselves, and at one point, it's just, the dialogue again was great. Naoki's like, oh, we have all the state-of-the-art equipment because Aoi's brother is Akira, so he gives us all of this good equipment. And once he says that, Aoi gives him, like, the stink eye. Like, she just squints at him, and he gets all scared and, like, annoyed. And it was hilarious. And another thing I really liked about this scene is they show Aoi standing. You can see the way she's standing in this picture. And that, along with like holding one of your arms like while you're public speaking, those are two signs that you like keep to yourself, and you're very nervous, and you have kind of maybe a little bit of social anxiety. Two nervous tics, two very common nervous tics. And the fact that they actually animated her doing that while she's in a social setting, it's low-key. It's something that a lot of people might miss. I touched on it when I did my live reaction, but it's brilliant. And just the little things like that, I really appreciated in this episode. And even the dialogue between Aoi and Yusaku, it's just so weird. In every Yu-Gi-Oh, you've had these really, charismatic protagonists, these upbeat characters. Now you have your main female lead and your main protagonist that are just I feel like they're perfect for each other because they're kind of bland, they're kind of boring, and their dialogue is so basic to the bones that it's actually so enjoyable to just watch. It's such a fresh change of pace. And so Aoi's like, "Can I see your deck?" And Yusaku's like, "Yeah." Aoi looks through it and she's like, "Thank you." And she was very unnerving in this episode. She was just creepy. She seemed like a robot. And there was one scene in particular that they animated that she honestly looked dead inside, but I'll get to that in a little bit. And so they go on, and Yusaku's just kind of staring at her. Doesn't really stir up any great dialogue, I'd say, with her. Then they show Aoi in her room, and she talks to Akira. And I haven't even touched on this yet, but Aoi and Akira, we got a line that Aoi and Akira are actually sister and brother-in-law, which that means... Another important thing to note, DMC confirmed that this was not a mistranslation. If you don't know, DMC was the one who originally did the script for the subs. But he said it's also impossible to tell whether they're stepbrother and sister, whether she was adopted based on what was said. So just keep that in mind. That's why I'm not going to focus on this too much, because it's not 100% sure that Akira is Aoi's brother-in-law. If that's the case, Aoi has to have had a sister, or I guess a brother, that Akira married, and just a sibling that Akira married. But that doesn't make sense because, let's say I have a sister, Ashley Deeprot. That's not my last name. If Ashley, my sister, marries Akira, her last name will become Ashley Zeisen, but I'm still staying Deeprot. I'm still saying Dylan Deeprot. My last name is not going to change, so why would Aoi's last name change? Maybe Akira adopted her. Maybe there's a stepbrother, stepsister situation going on. I'm not going to spend too much time on that, but the fact is that they're definitely not brother and sister. They're definitely not from the same parents. That's pretty much confirmed. So it'll be very interesting to see the situation going on there, the dynamic between those two, but we'll get more info on that. And they talk on the phone. Akira kind of calls her out, and during this conversation, she sounds like an absolute robot. She just keeps saying, "Yes, brother," and everyone was commenting that it reminds them a lot of Reira from Arc 5, and it really does. Just that she's so obedient to the point where it's creepy obsessed, and you can see her eyes start to shake, maybe showing a sign that she was about to break down in tears when Akira started calling her out on being an idol and being Blue Angel. And Aoi is like, "Brother, I won't disappoint you." And she goes into the VRains, and when she said this, and I'll show you the picture right now, it was probably one of the creepiest pictures I've ever seen. She is so disillusioned and so obsessed with her brother, and I kind of wish that this scene was done a little differently. I wish maybe she did start to tear up after the phone call, and maybe she wiped the tears away right before she went into Link VRains. I think that would have been better. I wanted them to maybe go the more sad, depressing route, even though this episode I still think was very depressing, and there was a line of dialogue coming up with her and between her and Yusaku that was extremely depressing, more so than the creepy obsessed route. But I'll get to that again in a little bit. I'm kind of teasing that. That was probably my favorite scene from the episode. Then we get Spectre. Blue Angel challenges Playmaker to a duel, and Spectre shows up, and Spectre is absolutely terrifying, and he ends up forcing a card onto her, and she doesn't remember any of this. He forces a card onto her and says, "When you play this card, it will open up the deepest secrets to your heart. You seem to have this obsession with Playmaker, blah, blah, blah." And what's very interesting is in the preview, one of the lines is, "As the card of Hanoi takes over, tear marks form on the Blue Angel's cheeks," or something like that. And if that's meant to be taken literally, that means Blue Angel might have a meltdown, burst into tears during the next duel, and maybe she's going to reveal during the next episode, and maybe she's going to reveal that she's Aoi and reveal how alone she is and how she just is so done with everything. That'll be very interesting to keep an eye on. Hopefully it's not brainwashing, but I could see her being controlled when she activates this card. I'm hoping that's not what happens, but I guess we're going to just have to wait and see. Either way, a terrifyingly awesome debut. Not debut, but a terrifyingly awesome way for Spectre to get involved in the plot. Then we have a very interesting scene, and it's with Aoi and Yusaku, and they're walking, and Yusaku asks about Aoi's brother, And this immediately kind of sets Aoi. It doesn't set her off, but she's like, I figured that's why you were talking to me. That's the only reason anyone ever talks to me. And I thought about this scene afterwards, and I'm like, but that is the only reason Yusaku is talking to her. You can't even say like, she's being like Aki and she's seeing things so negatively. No, that is literally the only reason that Yusaku is even talking to her. If it was not for Akira, Aoi would not even be in the storyline, and she would just have one less friend or one less potential friend or one less interaction in the Yugioh VRains world. And I think that really sums up Aoi's character so well, and why this debut, at least to me, was so depressingly impactful, that she really is nobody. She is nobody in the real world, and that's how she views herself, because then she says to Yusaku, don't even bother, my brother doesn't even trust me, and she runs off, and I think she probably runs off because she was probably about to break down crying. You wouldn't run off in any other situation. Maybe you would, like, show a cold shoulder and walk in another direction, but the fact that she runs off like that makes me think, and it's not like she was running off to go to Link VRains, it makes me think that she was about to break down in tears, and maybe we'll see that during the duel, like in a flashback format or something like that. But just, you feel horrible for her, you really do, and that's the only reason that our main character is even talking to her, and that's something that I loved. It's not like he was being a nice guy and going out of his way to talk to a lonely girl. He's literally trying to use her to get to her brother. Now, that is probably going to change in this next coming duel. Hopefully they will become friends, hopefully they will bond, and I'd be over the moon if, 3 years down the road, I don't even know if I'll be doing these reviews, and I'll be on YouTube when this show comes to an end. Hopefully I will be, but you just don't know what the future has in store if these two, like, get together, because I ship them. I mean, I don't really ship, and if I do ship, it's usually canon purposes, and it's like main, but I'd be over the moon if these two like got together, because I really do think they're perfect for each other. They're like emotionless, they don't have friends right now, they're probably pretty lonely in their own ways, and I think it would be really cool if they do form a bond and maybe like a relationship down the road, as long as it does not harm Aoi's character, which that's another pitfall that the show might fall into, that a lot of Yu-Gi-Ohs fall into. So, I'll hold my breath on that one, but they go into Link VRains, they're about to duel, and that was pretty much the end of the episode. I thought it was incredible. She's pretty much a member of the Knights of Hanoi. She doesn't remember what happened between her and Spectre, so it's not like she willingly joined, but technically, as Ignis said, he set up the duel, she's a part of the Knights, and that's what's going to happen right now, and next episode is going to be so exciting. It's going to be so fun. This episode was great, and I really think it was one of the best character debuts we have ever seen, and from anyone, male or female, that doesn't even matter here, in a Yu-Gi-Oh anime. Really, really impressive debut, and I know a lot of people were worried, including myself, because Yoshida, I think even in the Zexal manga, Yoshida, who's the writer, or one of the writers for Yugioh VRains, he said in the Zexal manga, in one of like the excerpts, like before the chapter started, he was like, yeah, one of the producers or one of the people below me, I forget the terminology, told me to make a character female. I think that's why Luna was a female character, and he even basically admits in that excerpt that he doesn't like writing females, or he's not very good at writing females. But Yoshida, pat yourself on the back, and the whole Yugioh VRains team, pat yourself on the back, because I could not have asked for a better debut from our female heroine, and I don't think many people could have asked for a better debut, and just a great episode. It was good for Yusaku, it was just good for a lot of characters, and I'm so excited to see where this show goes, where her character goes, and what lies in store next week, because No Gilbo is animating, so the animation next week is going to be absolutely beautiful. That's another thing. The animation was noticeably so much better in this episode than it has been in the first 5 episodes, so that's obviously not going to keep up, but they put their animation budget in this episode, which was a very good decision, because again, a very enjoyable episode. I hope you guys enjoyed my review. Leave all your thoughts down below. I will talk to you in the comments as always. Until next time, guys, thank you so much for watching. Have an amazing day.